What's up guys? In today's video I'm going to be doing the course overview / review of Machine Learning for Trading, which is course number CS7646 in Georgia Tech's Online Masters for Computer Science program. I took this class over the summer 2022 semester, so keep that in mind when I talk about the workload and schedule, since it's a fair bit more sped up than the fall or spring semesters just by nature, since those are longer semesters than the summer 2022 semester or any of the summer semesters. But on OMS Central it says average weekly workload 11 hours, average difficulty 2.5 out of 5, an average rating of 4 out of 5. I think the average rating is something that I would agree with. I did really enjoy this class, and the difficulty of 2.5 out of 5 is pretty accurate. I would say none of the concepts or assignments are particularly difficult, but I do think the workload over the summer at least was more than 11 hours a week. I'd say probably like 15, I want to say. But again, that's probably accurate if you take it in the fall or spring, just because you have less, or you have more time for the same amount of content in theory. But I'm just going to organize this overview by going down the calendar / schedule that we followed, and I'll just talk about each one. Something else to note is that everyone can see the previous semester's syllabi and the schedule, and I would recommend checking that out if you're interested in taking this class, because you could actually get ahead that way by looking at the content and doing that beforehand. So week 1 was local environment setup and a course content quiz. Local environment setup, I think it's worth noting that this class is not particularly Windows friendly. They recommend using a VM with Linux on it if you are going to be developing on a Windows machine, and using that for the assignments. I did all of the assignments on a Mac, which was Intel based, but I did do the last 2 assignments on a Windows machine, and I didn't use a VM, and I didn't have any problems, but that's just something worth noting. The course content quizzes are pretty easy. They're essentially just like 2 multiple choice questions that are usually derived from the lectures, or if there's an assignment, it's derived from the assignment instructions. So you have 2 retakes for those, and they're pretty easy, pretty much free. Give me points so long as you do the lecture, like watch the required lectures and read the assignment instructions. For the whole course, I don't think there's any need to read the textbook, and I think just watching the lectures and doing the assignments was enough for me to get an A pretty handedly. The first project was a pretty easy one. I would essentially think of it as a Python / NumPy warm-up, plus you get introduced to writing reports, which are used for a number of different assignments for this class. Basically, you code a gambling simulator where you follow this strategy called Martingale, and basically you implement it and then you kind of graph and analyze the results. The key thing is after that you have to write a report, but the reports are largely structured in an outline that they tell you to. So it's like there are questions and you have to answer each question, and they're very strict on using something called the JDF format, which is joiner document format, joiner being the instructor. It's kind of interesting since he is the instructor but not the course creator, so he kind of just does the admin role of the course, even though the course content and the lectures were done by Tucker Balch, who I believe did a great job. So the first assignment is not too difficult. Again, largely Python NumPy warm-up and an introduction to writing reports for this class. For the second week, we had another project due and another course content quiz. This second project was called Optimize Something, and this was basically our first foray into using the stock / financial data that we would use for the rest of the assignments. And basically, we used SciPy's optimization function to determine the best stock allocation, and we also got introduced to a couple portfolio analysis metrics and calculated them. And this assignment didn't have a report, which is nice, especially if you're not into writing prose to answer questions. And again, I didn't find this assignment to be particularly different, and it was relatively smooth and enjoyable. Things definitely start to get more time intensive with the third project, which for us was due in week 4 alongside another survey and course content quiz. In this assignment, you program a decision tree, random tree, and bootstrap aggregation class. And this is already, in my opinion, a more difficult programming assignment than the previous assignments. But on top of that, you also have to submit a report which basically analyzes and compares the performance of the different learners, including a linear regression learner, which they provide for you. Be prepared to spend more time on this assignment than the other ones. I think it was probably one of the most, if not the most, time-intensive assignment. And for all of these assignments, you're not allowed to use scikit-learn, so you're implementing all of these algorithms and techniques manually with pandas or NumPy, or both. The next project, project 4, is called Defeat Learners, and it's pretty easy. I think this one only took me like 3 hours or maybe even less than that. Basically, you just need to write code to programmatically create data sets that are favorable for a linear regression learner and data sets that are favorable for a decision tree learner. And yes, this builds upon the decision tree learner that you created or coded up in the previous assignment. Next up is the midterm, which is worth a decent portion of your grade, but it's pretty easy, and if you review the lecture videos and study the practice exam that they provide, you should be able to get 100 or very close to 100. It's a really short multiple choice exam, and you really shouldn't stress it. This video is getting longer than I would like for one video, so I'm going to split it into 2 portions, so just click over to the second video if you're still interested and want to hear about the rest of the class.